Here we have the Remington rolling block. I believe it's Remington number 1 was the factory designation. But this is the Argentine model of 1879. It's one of their military contracts that Remington had for this fine rifle. There's a couple other videos up on YouTube. One of them, a friend of mine, Scott, Gun Geek up there in Canada, did an excellent little video on his. He has a Swedish model. And he gets into pulling the hammer and the block out, which I won't do, but to show you the difference on this right away is if you go to his video, you can refer to this. On Scott's gun, he's got 2 screws that lock these pins in. This particular model, that screw in the center comes and that plate comes off. A little plate here, and then these pins can be driven out to remove the action itself, the hammer and the falling block. But basically, it's Remington. I believe they had some militia contracts for this rifle. I used to have one. Unfortunately, times are bad and I sold it. I had a New York State militia rifle in 50-70. And like I said, this one here is the Argentine model, and that's in a 43 Spanish. Is the U.S. designation. I don't know the metric terms right offhand. And it's, it's basically a rolling block is a rolling block. Simplistic. That your hammer goes back to your safety notch. And then you just drop the block down. Insert the cartridge. And you're ready to roll. Then push it down and it should eject it right out. The extractor, pull out the cartridge. That's about it. Simplicity, ease of use. Now this particular gun, I don't know about the sights, but someone told me that the sights are the same as the Austrian werndel rifle, which should kind of look similar to them. And I'll show you the werndel here. It's like the notches up front. Usually most guns have the notch here in the rear, and then when you ramp them up, they lift up from this end. It's kind of like reversed. It has the basic military bands and a lug here on the end for a saber, probably a saber style bayonet front sight. And I guess they're pretty rugged, reliable, desirable, and collectible guns. One of the things on Remingtons is here. On that, can't see it very well, but I'll try to zoom in on that. Is the markings. It's the 3-line address there. It's kind of worn on this one. It's Remington made this, and you see the markings where it says Argentine model on it. It's a black powder gun. It's a black powder cartridge. They were made for several different foreign countries. Took contracts on this. They made rifles and carbines. Some were later converted to a smokeless or center fire cartridge, smokeless round, 7 millimeters. And here's, see if I can get this to where we can show the 2 cartridges. Back here would probably be better. And I have a couple cartridges as an example. This one here is the 43 Spanish side by side with the werndel. And as you can tell, they're all about the same. 43 models are all of them. They all have a slight bottleneck to them, where we were using 4570 at the time, which was a straight wall cartridge. A lot of the foreign services had bottleneck cartridges. And the bullet diameters vary about 8 thousandths between the two of them. But that's what it's caliber for, 43 Spanish. And I picked this gun up. It's in real nice shape. I'm going to do a video on reloading the ammunition for it, and I want to do a basic overview of the gun first when I took it out. Interestingly enough though, this Remington rifle won a silver medal at an expo, I think a Paris expo somewhere, it must have been in the 1870s or so. It came in second place and won an award as a new designer of gun. And the interesting thing is, I have a werndel here. I'll show you a little side by side. I'll give you a little more information. Okay, this is the Austrian werndel rifle. And the interesting story that kind of ties it in with the Remington is, and we'll take a closer look at it here, is this is a different system. Okay, this still has a hammer, kind of reminiscent of percussion locks, and this has what they call a rotating breech. Okay, other than your rolling block, falling blocks like a Sharps or something, this one rotated like this, and that's how that gun worked. And how that one worked, you loaded the cartridge in there, rotated it shut, then when you were done, rotated it out, cartridge pops out. The story goes that when the Austrian military was looking for a single shot, black powder style gun, they had trials, like most governments do. And this gun was developed at Steyr. And again, you see the same thing, a couple bands, has a different style bayonet lug. This has a saber type of bayonet. Same, it's just a different style action to it, And the Austrians tested the guns, and even though the Remington was superior, this gun has a problem when it gets fouled and dirty. This doesn't rotate well, and they had trouble with it. But they had an Austrian prince or somebody in the royal family that his duty was to decide what it was, and what he did is he went with a gun designed by somebody from Austria, and the Austrian army chose this gun over the Remington. That's how the story goes. But the interesting thing about this is the werndel sight, which is considered one of the best sights, rear sights on black powder guns or something along that, I heard. This has that sight, which is kind of like I said, backwards, where the notch is up in the front. And when you lifted it come up there, other than here on the rear, which you see on a lot of guns, the ladder sight. And I don't know, I'm not an expert. I know some about these guns, but they say Remington copied the sight onto this model gun, which I've seen some of the Egyptian contract gun, and they have 3 or 4 different types of sights on there. I don't know if they're put on afterwards or whatever, but there's a better look at it. They kind of had Remington, they said Remington copied the sight, which on the werndel, as you can see, it's very similar, very same thing. Well, that's a little overview of the gun, and I'm going to do a video on reloading 43 Spanish. That cartridge is a little bit easier to reload for some reason. In the United States, it's easier to get brass. And then we're going to take them out and we're going to shoot them. Now, at least the Remington. The werndel, I haven't tooled up yet to manufacture the ammunition or cast the bullets for it yet. That's another project in the future, and I'll do an overview of that gun and give you a little on the history of it. But right now, I'll do another video on my basic start and reloading, and hopefully we'll get out in a few days and shoot some rounds out of this Remington rolling block.